Well, hello again. It's Aaron Schatz, Editor-in-Chief of ASE Publishing. And today, yes, today, we've got another review for you. This time, it's a D-Link DCS-2630L Full HD Wide View Ultra High Definition camera. I think I said HD twice, but that's okay. Did I mention it's wireless too? Here it is. This is review ID 52781. You can check out this and all our reviews by going to www.aselabs.com. Forget the RSS feeds. You're watching this on YouTube right now, right? Hit the subscribe button. You'll be informed of all our video content, which is pretty much all the content we do nowadays anyway. Let's see what this has to offer. If you haven't seen the unboxing for the DCS-2630L, it's probably going to be right here. Right in this vicinity right here. There. However, if you don't want to see that, basically it comes with the camera, AC adapter, long micro USB cable, mounting kit, and some literature, and that's basically it. Now you don't have to see the unboxing. This is the DCS-2630L, the camera. It's very heavy for what you think. So if you pick up regular consumer cameras and you're like, whoa, okay, it's a regular consumer camera, and then you pick up like, this has got some heft to it. The reason it's got some heft is because it actually has better sensors, and it actually has a speaker and microphone. So most cameras that will have like audio will just do microphone. This one has a speaker. So you can actually connect to this and actually talk to someone on the other side, and they can talk back to you. So it's like partially an intercom. So theoretically you could use this as some sort of baby monitor. However, I know D-Link has baby monitors as well. But this, being the price that it is, it's on the upper end of the consumer spectrum. The real big feature of this camera is the viewing angle. We're not talking about a narrow viewing angle. We're talking about a very, very wide viewing angle. I'll show you that in a little bit. Along with the heft of the device, it really feels like it needs that heft, probably in the form of heat sinks, because it's probably doing a lot of stuff. So if you look around the actual camera itself, you have the lens, and you have the sensor for determining if it needs to put the IR LEDs on. This is day and night camera as well. The back, the speaker, the microphone is in the front or on the bottom somewhere. The micro USB port is down here for power. You have the WPS button back here. You have a micro SD slot, so you can actually record stuff directly. Just pops in right there. You can record stuff directly on the camera. You don't need to hook this up to an NVR if you don't want to. This also works with D-Link's mydlink service, which I actually started using, and it's pretty nice. However, I'm a big fan of having your own recordings on your own network. So it does support mydlink service. So if you like to use that, totally works fine as well. The setup, very simple as well. Like most of the newer D-Link cameras, the setup on this was actually very, very simple. Unlike the DCS-935L that we actually reviewed a few months ago, this was a breeze. You basically turn it on, you follow the setup programs in the mydlink app, and it automatically connects to the network. No problems on this camera whatsoever. However, the setup is actually very, very limited in terms of what you want to do. So for instance, if I want to hook this up to an NVR, like my Synology NAS for instance, you're really going to want to go into more advanced settings. And you can do that by basically logging into the camera directly. So once the actual camera has an IP address, you can actually just log into it just like any other D-Link camera and fiddle around with the settings in a more advanced approach. And thankfully this one has all those settings for you to actually play with. However, if you're just looking to actually use this as a local device, meaning like you're going to use this on an SD card, or you want to just have this as a monitoring device that you connect to the mydlink service, this works right out of the box, no problem. You plug it in, once the power's up, once it's all set up on your network, you just associate it with your mydlink account, and that's it. It just starts working. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. Like magic, a P8 Lite shows up in my hand, and we're doing a review on this. So if you want to see this review, hit that subscribe button in one of these corners. However, we're not doing that review today. We're doing this one. But this is very helpful for me to show you how to use the mydlink Lite software. Now, I'm going to superimpose this on this screen, probably in this side or something. This is the actual initial screen that you'll see after you sign into the software. Now, I have not paid for the software, so this is the free version. So all the stuff you see here is no payment needed. I have 2 devices already set up, and if you go to the local tab, you can actually see the 3rd device that I didn't actually set up with the software. Because to use these, you actually don't need to actually set these up with the mydlink software after the initial setup is complete. In fact, you don't need to set this up with the mydlink software at all. You can actually manually set this up by connecting to the Wi-Fi hotspot that's created with these cameras, logging in manually with a browser, and then setting it up. Incidentally, once this is set up with the mydlink software, you can go to the IP address through a browser and then have all the advanced options available for you. And that's great because we showed that on the DCS-2630L, and we're going to show it to you again after this is done. Let's go to the camera right now, though. So this is what I see when I'm looking at you, a camera. And you could see the difference in the actual angle. Look at this. Look at the box is like almost 180 degrees. You can still see it creeping into the corner. But I mean, just look. So this table is flat, obviously, it's not curved. And if this was a real fisheye, you would see like really bowing. But the camera's actually doing a nice job of really trying to straighten out this angle. But there's not much you can do when you have when you have this wide angle and you're trying to show a flat object in the way. But you can see that everything doesn't look that skewed when you look to the left or the right. Everything looks pretty well done. So it's not like you have this fisheye where everything's all like, contorted and stuff. The objects that are farther away actually look pretty nice, pretty non-distorted. Like I said though, if I increase the volume of this, you're going to hear me through this because this has a microphone on it, right here. Hear it? That's this. But now I'm going to put this down. The next thing I really want to show you is how the speaker works on this. However, the screen recording that I'm using on this Android device is not allowing me to actually do both at the same time. But if it did work, you'd basically hit this button right here, and once this pops up, you can actually start talking, and you'd hear it through the speaker. However, since the software on this device is capturing the microphone input, apparently, for some reason, it's not allowing me to do that. Now, let's back out of here and go into remote. If you hit this, once it's already set up, it'll act just like a local camera and you can see everything. You can also do the microphone thing over here as well. And if it wasn't, if this software wasn't capturing the microphone input for some reason, you'd actually be able to hear my voice twice. Once through the camera and then once through my mouth. The other options you can set up through the software, you can take a screenshot. Yeah, great. You can set up the day-night modes on here, auto, day or night. And if I put it on night mode, see, it turns to black and white. And I don't know if you could see the IR LEDs on it. Can you? Well, if you can't, they got IR LEDs. That's how it's actually working. So I'll just put this back on day mode. Turns back to color. And then you can see some information on the stream itself. Bit rate, frame rate, the actual type, meaning like the codec that's being used, H.264, and the resolution, and some other stuff that you don't worry about. I've turned off the software because that's pretty much the overview of the software. And now let me just show you that the microphone thingy works. Hello? Hello? Now you can hear me through this as well through my mouth. Oh, and here comes the feedback. So there you have it. You can actually do two-way communications with this through the actual software. I'm not sure if you can actually get it to some sort of like third-party solution where you can actually use any other thing besides the software. For instance, there's got to be a way for you to say, okay, I want this to actually take microphone input from somewhere else. If the software does it, there's got to be a way. I'm not sure how to do it yet, but there's got to be a way to just port audio to this so you can play it through this. It's got to be a way. We'll figure it out sooner or later. Once you have the DCS-2630L set up on your network through that software, you can actually hit the IP address of this thing on a browser and then have all the advanced setup that you want. And in fact, why don't we go in the computer and I'll show you what that interface looks like right now. Here we see the initial screen when you actually log into the camera. If I actually had this plugin installed and it doesn't work because I'm on Linux or some reason, I tried this in Chrome, it's the same thing. But you really don't need this to work to actually set up the camera or anything. Once this is hooked up, you can actually just view this with a mobile device or through an NVR. All works the same. So let's just head right into the setup. Now, most of the D-Link cameras have similar setups. So you're going to see these screens look almost very similar, and that's fine. So if we go, you can use the setup wizard, or you can go in manually like I always do, set up a static IP address on the camera. You can also set different ports for RTSP or HTTP or HTTPS. It'll also actually do UPnP for like setting up your router and such. This is how you connect to a wireless access point, which you're going to need because there's no Ethernet port. And now it can most D-Link cameras can do dynamic DNS, so this is nothing new. However, I always say that if you're going to do this, just use an NVR, let the NVR do everything. Now this is where you set up your image settings. Like for instance, if it's too dark, you can increase your brightness. The contrast is too much, you can lower it. Saturation, sharpness, you can mirror it if you want. Wow. Flip it. Like for instance, if you mounted the camera on a ceiling, you'd want to probably flip the actual image. And you can change it to black and white, security style. We don't want to do that. This page, the audio and video page, is where the meat of this lies. If you're using this with an NVR, you're going to want to know this URL right here, or any of these URLs actually. And then you can actually set the resolution on each of these streams. So you get 3 streams. Even though this one says for mobile devices only, it doesn't matter. But let's just say that you wanted to do MJPEG. You can actually do that with the video profile too. If you have an older NVR or something that's not going to handle H.264 video, you could just use this, the second profile, and then you can actually still grab the actual stream. You can bump the resolution up to 1920 by 1080 if you want, because that's the resolution of the camera, and it'll work just the same. So that's really good. You get the all these profiles available. You can also change the URL, but these URLs are the ones you're going to use for an NVR. So for instance, this play1.sdp, it's going to be the IP address of the camera, or the host name if you gave it one, / this URL. And obviously you're going to have to put authentication on it. So when you actually connect to it, it's going to say, oh, what's your username and password, and you put that in from the actual thing that you set up initially. Time and date, you should probably set this to the right one, right? So that would be Eastern, auto daylight savings time, and it's using an NTP server that D-Link uses. So we'll just save that. Come on. This reminds me never to do stuff while you're filming. Anyway, we can move on to video clip. So basically, you could send this a video clip if an event is triggered. For instance, like if you're using this without an NVR, you have an SD card in there, you can actually trigger this to send a video clip when an event is triggered, meaning like sound or motion detection. However, since I'm using this as an NVR, I don't need to do that. You can also capture a snapshot when an event is triggered, for instance, motion or sound. However, again, using an NVR, no need. This is where you actually can filter IP addresses and such. However, again, this is an internal network. It's fairly secure, so no big deal. However, if you do need to use this, boom, right there. If you have HTTPS, you can actually put a certificate on this. Or not. Doesn't really matter. Again, internal network. If you have an SD card in there, this is where you actually set up everything. So for instance, you do this, it'll actually give you the recording type, a snapshot or video. I suggest video because it's a video recorder. And make sure you cycle the space. Now, the motion detection, you need to have this working. So this is probably one of those times where you're going to probably need to use Mac or Windows to actually get this to set up. However, since I'm using an NVR, and I keep saying this, it doesn't really matter for me. But if you have this available, basically what it's going to do, it's going to allow you to draw an area and say, okay, monitor this area for an event. And when this motion changes, trigger that event for the other stuff that I showed you below with the video clip and the snapshot. So that's how this works. It also has PIR, which is cool, passive infrared. So it doesn't actually have to do motion in the video. It can actually do it from the PIR itself. Like for instance, a warm body can walk in the way of the PIR, and boom, that's the sensitivity right there. This also does sound detection because it has a microphone in it. You can turn this bad boy on, put the detection level, and then there you go. So since I don't have an SD card in there right now, this would actually show you video files and such in the size, and you can actually do any of the file management stuff on this screen right here. However, if you're using this camera, I really suggest pairing this with an NVR. So if you have this camera, yes, itself can be an NVR. However, you're not going to really unlock the full potential of a security system without having some centralized solution like an NVR. For instance, any NAS will really do it nowadays. I highly recommend the Synology ones. So here's where we actually could set up the admin password. A user account, so if you have an admin password and you don't want to give like a user account for live viewing, you can actually add another user account. You can control authentication if you want to. I always suggest leaving authentication on anyway. I don't know why you wouldn't. Here's where you change the device names, which we're not going to do right now. You can also save all the settings if you want, and then you can restore it at a later date. Also, one thing to note, the software for the mydlink software, once you connect to the camera, if there's a firmware upgrade, it'll actually just go out and do it. It'll say, oh, you want to upgrade the firmware? And you put yeah, and it automatically does it. So that's actually pretty cool. And here we see the status. Pretty much I put in the, the DNS for those open DNS servers. I think this is a Google DNS server. But basically, here's all the stuff. It's all basically the same stuff on all the D-Link cameras. There's some nuances based on, the camera features and stuff. However, this isn't breeze to set up, just like all the D-Link cameras. So that's basically the interface. Obviously, you get this help menu, which, who cares? You can connect to the internet and find all the help you need. But that's basically the interface. So let's reset this and head back on with the rest of the review. Now that you've seen the actual advanced setup of the camera, just be sure to actually locate those URLs if you want to use this with an NVR. So like for instance, you had the RTSP URL play1.sdp, and you can use that for an NVR. Works fine. I've done it. It works just like a normal one. Once NAS actually this is brand new, like legitimately brand new. So most NVRs aren't going to have a profile for this setup. So you're going to have to put this in manually. Not a problem at all once you have those URLs. Works fine. I wanted to show you the scenario that I'm talking about. So I have the 2630L and the 935L right next to each other in the same room upstairs. Let's see what they look like. So you can see the 935L right now, and it covers, a lot of the room. The colors are kind of like, drowned out from the light shining from upstairs. You can see that the TV's on as well. And that's that. Now, if I switch to the 2630L, what a difference you can see. This is what I'm talking about in the quality of the optics and everything. Look at the definition in this versus the 935L. I'll show you both again. This is the 2630L, and I'm going to go back to the 935L right now. I mean, there is a huge difference in quality with obviously the more expensive camera, but look at the difference in the actual field of view as well. You get basically the 935. You basically get the walking upstairs, a little bit of the upstairs, and then you can see the entrance doorway. Think about it this way. Go back to the 2630L now. You can see everything in the room happening. Everything. And if this was a larger room, it would be a lot more pronounced. So, yeah, the 2630L, really, much better quality than the 935L. Of course, they do different things, and they're targeted to different market segments, but yeah, you could see the huge quality difference in these two cameras. The D-Link DCS-2630L retails for about $180 right now, and remember, yes, you can get the 935L, however, this is a very different use case. You can stick this in a room and then cover the entire room with one camera. And really, for $180, you get great optics, you get the ability to actually have two-way communication. It's just an all-around better device. And the price matches that. I think it's a good buy if you need that use case. Now, if you're just like me and you're sticking this in an outdoor, like for instance, the 935, I have peeking out of a window right now to see what's going on outside. Because again, I'm going to bring up the story. that somebody stole something off my porch and now I have things facing the outside so I can see. If you need that use case, yeah, D-Link makes less expensive cameras that handle that use case. If you're concentrating on internal security inside a premise, this will cover an entire room, and that's great. ASE Publishing and ASE Labs would like to thank D-Link for sending this product for review. You can check out links on ASE Labs to purchase this product right now. It's being sold right now. For ASE Publishing and ASE Labs, I'm Aaron Schatz. Thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button in one of these corners, which I continually say. I continually have no idea which side it is. It doesn't really matter. It could be the left, it could be the right, or it could be the... Well, I'm facing you, so it doesn't matter, whatever. You know what also is important for you to do? There's a comment section below. You should post a comment and then leave me some feedback, and then I can respond to that feedback, and we can have this whole discussion and stuff, and it'll be freaking amazing. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.